Right. Hello, everybody out there at the on the Link for Growth subscriptions, and to anybody who's randomly tuning in. As you may have noticed, I am not actually Chris Ogle. For those of you who didn't see last week, he's handed over the duties to me to take on this "What's My Story" section. So I was thinking, who would be the perfect person for my first session, and seeing as Chris brought me into the limelight last week, well, I thought I'd do the honours and bring him into the limelight for this week, because I'm sure everyone out there has come across Chris at the Link for Growth events, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to sort of bring him in and just to tell him a little bit more about himself and maybe uncover some hidden nuggets that we didn't actually know about him. So, Chris, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, hi there, Mark. Yeah, you've turned the tables on me this week. So last week I brought you in and for your inaugural opportunity on What's My Story, you dragged me back. So yeah, congratulations and welcome to me to the show this time.
Absolute pleasure, Chris. And yeah, it feels much better being on this side of the camera, I must say. So yeah, let's kick things off and tell us a little bit about the man Chris Ogle and what it is you currently do.
Well, most people will know me from the Link for Growth in the main. It's a little bit like when I grew up playing table tennis. When I met someone who played table tennis in the street, I never recognised them because they weren't out of their table tennis clothes. They were in normal clothes, not the table tennis clothes. And I just didn't recognise them because the only time I ever saw them was in table tennis halls. And I think it's a little bit like that with Link for Growth. I'm the kind of person that they've always known about Link for Growth. But of course, there's so much stuff that's gone on before. I think we'll need about 10 of these shows to cover it all.
Well, we definitely might have a little section for you at a later time, but so you've obviously done a lot in your career. So why don't we go sort of back to the beginning and actually, where did it all start for you? Have you always been into networking, or did you sort of start somewhere else?
Well, networking started in 1985 with BNI, and of course, I never heard of it in those days. That's just business networking. So I started off, I'd always wanted to be a programmer. I was writing programs on programmable calculators in my latter years at school, but I'd always wanted to get into programming. My brother had gone into programming, so I'd always wanted to do it. And sort of side subjects at school, when the opportunity for computing came up, I jumped at it. And then kind of the A levels had come and gone, and I'd got accepted to study maths at Canterbury, but I didn't, to be honest, 3 years. I like maths, but not 3 years of it, to be fair. So I just decided to have a look in the summer holidays for a job. And there was a massive place quite close to where I live called Rolls-Royce, and they made helicopter jet engines. And they were looking for 5 trainees to join the programming team. So I applied, did the aptitude test, and got accepted. So bye-bye Canterbury University of Maths and hello programming.
And when you started off, what was it that sort of made you go from that? Because that's quite a sort of a contrast to where you are now. So what sort of happened?
Well, loads happened. I mean, I've been in IT all my life, and I guess if you kind of wind the clock forwards, in about 1997, I was at a bit of a crossroads, and I'd been writing some databases for different companies, and one of the ladies that ran a company that I'd done a database for, she said, "So what's the future then, Chris? What's it going to look like in the future?" And I said, and this was 1997, I said, "Well, one day, you know, all applications will be delivered through a web browser." And she said, "No, don't be sick," because, you know, IE at the time was probably one of the only browsers, and it was awful. So, you know, you couldn't imagine anything being delivered through that platform, to be fair. So that was quite a foresight. And in 2000, I started a business, which I still run today, which is a software company that's written software purely for the web. So in 2001, I set my stall out, which was it was only going to be web-based. A lot of applications would be imported from other platforms and to the web, but this was written only for the web. There was no system beforehand. And it was and the idea was it was basically a collection of all my experiences in software beforehand, parameterized into a system that would run companies, but with a lot of flexibility, so it addressed all sorts of different type of businesses in the one platform, where you just set switches on to make it behave in different ways. So that's what I did, and the concept of renting software just wasn't there in 2001. And my business partner said, "Are you sure about this, Chris? Renting software? We've always bought software. What makes you think it's going to change to being rented?" I said, "Trust me, this is the way it's going to be in the future." and I did that, and I'm still doing it. I've got some nice customers, but the software works, so they tend not to cause me a lot of hassle. But they still use the software and they still pay me for it, so that's good news.
Fantastic. So obviously back then, I mean, in today's world, the internet is, you know, it's second nature for a lot of people out there, and you know, a lot of people don't really give it much thought as to, you know, where it's come from. But obviously back then, it was a very, I can only imagine how daunting it must have been to sort of decide to go into this unknown, if you like, and nobody was quite sure where the internet was going to go. So how did that sort of make you personally feel, and what sort of advice would you give to people that are kind of looking for that career choice, but they're not quite sure, you know, where to go, or the options in front of them are a bit more challenging than what they were hoping for? What advice do you have?
Well, I mean, it might sound like a real brave decision to do this, but basically I had time, I had computing capability, I had PCs and stuff, I had knowledge, and I had belief in myself, and I had no money. Right, so when you pull those things together, your options aren't that great. I had time, so I worked 24/7, basically 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 4 years to create the best product, the base product that then somebody would rent and pay me some money for. So I just basically scratched a living doing computer consultancy work with people I knew to get enough money to keep my head above water while I wrote this software for the rest of the time. But I knew, because I have this vision for some things in the future, I knew that looking at all the indicators, looking at all the trends, there was no way this perpetuation of packaging, sending out CDs, people buying software in the shop, the whole mechanics of that was just not going to be possible going forward, because the savings of downloading an application off the internet or using a web-based application, there was no shipping, no costs, no supply chain, no sales costs. It was just, you just used it, and that was it. So I could see that the future was that there was no other option. So it wasn't really a brave decision. It was just looking at the trends and saying, well, it just makes sense.
So your advice to people then is just to kind of be open. Is that kind of what you're saying? Just to be open to the opportunities out there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've done it again with Link for Growth, really. I mean, what was around was paid for business networking, where only the people who could afford to pay for it and only people in business could go and speak to other people. But if you flip that around and you say, well, why don't we not charge for it because we're not looking to make a profit? Why don't we, that means everybody can come and join in, and we can actually have a real chance of having loads of conversations and getting people to really start to collaborate and work together in whatever capacity. So it's flipping it on its head, but you can only do it if your goal is not money. Because if money, you've got to charge for it. And people were going to me, you're crazy, Chris. I mean, I've got more arrows in my back than anybody, because I trust in my own intuition. I trust in my belief, and you've got to have that. I've tried things and they've not worked. Don't get me wrong. If anybody's out there watching and saying, you know, I'm scared to try something, you've just got to try it, learn. If it doesn't work, move on, try something else. In the end, you'll find something that floats your boat, you're passionate about, and that's got a trend that's going with it, and you're going to end up doing something you love and getting paid for doing it. And I just endorse everybody to do that, because there's no better place.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen you sort of interacting with people at the Link for Growth events, and we sort of go on to Link for Growth. I mean, you sort of briefly touched on its kind of early days. But sort of how do you sort of see it evolving, the Link for Growth, and sort of what, you know, why should people come along to networking events that I've sort of never been to before?
I believe that 80% of people out there are good people. I believe that they would like to do the right thing. They'd like to help their neighbours. What's happened is that over the years, and it's nobody's fault, we've become quite insular. We've been only prepared to do things if we're going to get paid for it. We've had our whole focus and value, the value of people has been put onto possessions and material things. So we lost touch with actually integrity, honesty, loyalty, respect, people doing things because they wanted to help other people. We lost all of that. And Link for Growth is about putting that back in place. It's about reconnecting us with solidarity, with we're all in the, we're all here in the community. If everybody did a little bit each, if everybody was able to just, and it's not easy to volunteer, by the way. So Link for Growth is another opportunity for, we're creating a platform which enables people to participate and do things as part of their, if you like, social responsibility, give back a little bit. And if we all did that, and I mean, I've done some numbers, if we all gave 4 hours a week, I call it time tithing. If we all gave 4 hours a week, and there are 8 million of us, that'd be 1.5 billion hours a year. And if we could just organise it, which is what Link for Growth is doing, and structure it properly, and we were all going in the same direction, how amazing would that be?
It'd be fantastic, to be honest.
We've got the platform now. All we've got to do is fill it with people. It's so, that's it. We've spent 70% of our time building infrastructure over the last 3 years and 30% of our time building the network. We're already running 100 events a month, but we're flipping it now. It's going to be 70% engagement and network growth and 30% infrastructure, because now it exists. It's just a question now of tinkering with it and making it, adapting it, making it more relevant and improving it over the coming years. So we're at a very important point right now. We're at the cusp of a massive expansion program.
Fantastic. So we're going to sort of look to wrap things up, but as a man, I don't want to sound too mean, but as a man with a lot of experience behind you, you must have had some fantastic moments in your career. You know what? Just give us a sort of brief overview of sort of some great moments that you've had.
Well, I mean,
I said, you can think of them on the spot, that is.
Yeah, you can't beat having a child. You know, not me personally, but you can't beat having a child. That is a massive moment in anybody's life. I think creating the software product out of my imagination and seeing a company that uses it go from 5 million to 25 million, pretty much because the software gave them the edge in their marketplace, was a pretty defining moment. That was a fabulous, I mean, and we tussled with some pretty low-tech technology in order to achieve that. So that was another pretty great moment. And I think Link for Growth, I think now, I mean, I talk about Link for Growth as if it's my baby. Link for Growth is all about the people in it. You know, I'm just one person, and we've got a statement in Link for Growth which is incredibly important, which is everybody is important and everybody is equal. There is no hierarchy in Link for Growth, because every single person has got a part to play. And my part to play is to be a catalyst and go around and hopefully inspire people. But that's my part to play. But everybody, you know, you've got all the people that are involved in Link for Growth, Nikki, Deepa, Carol in Link for Skills, you doing this. Yeah, everybody, without these people, nothing would happen.
Oh, it's very true. And I personally know from sort of being, you know, a year ago, I didn't know anybody in the local community, and it was through Link for Growth that I actually, you know, met a lot of people. And without it, you know, I wouldn't be talking to you now. And you know, you've said some really good points there. So hopefully people will take this on board and come along to some of the events in the future.
Fabulous.
So, Chris, we're gonna wrap things up there today. So thank you very much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic to hear just a little bit more about your past, and I'll definitely be sort of coming to you for some advice on any software matters that I have.
Well, I'm edging myself out of that now, because to be honest, the technology's moved on again. I mean, it's in cycles, technology. You know, like what we had 10 years ago was what was around in the 1950s, and it's going around another evolution with all the mobile platforms. It's the same old, it's the same old thing, but there are always new challenges out there for every different, you know, stage in evolution. And now it's, can it work on a mobile phone? Can it work on an iPad? Can it work on a laptop? Can it work on? There's always challenges, but they're not quite the same as they used to be.
Well, I'm sure people are going to have lots of questions for you anyway, so
No
I'm sure you'd be happy to answer them at any event.
Okay, fabulous. Lovely talking to you, and I will see you up in Peterborough sometime soon, hopefully.
Indeed, very soon, Chris. So, recorded there today. So thank you again to Chris for joining us. And yeah, if anybody's got a story that they want to sort of give across to the nation, then please do get in touch. Being the new face of this Link for Growth TV, I would love to have a chat with you out there. So please do send in messages and just sort of let me know your story, basically. So I hope you enjoyed that today. I'm not too sure at the moment who we got for next week, but stay tuned, and we'll have some more stories on the way. So to everyone out there, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.